Welcome to the Awakening Podcast. You can find all our episodes on awakeningpodcast.org. 3rd of August 2025 for another perspective. And I suppose let's just, we'll tell you what we're going to talk about, but perhaps my co-host Istvan will say what the first picture is about.
Yeah, it's I think, very appropriate quote from Friedrich Nietzsche, a philosopher, writer out of the past century, and he says, sometimes people don't want to hear the truth because they don't want their illusions destroyed. I think that is very appropriate in this day and age. And but if I would note it, I would replace the word sometimes with often. But he lived in a different time frame, so maybe that's because he phrased it like this. I'm pretty sure if he phrased it now, it would be often.
But basically, this week we'll be talking about the news. Make Europe great again. Sounds like a Trump statement. UK Online Safety Act. Farms close in the UK. The Court of Appeal has ruled that asylum seekers have no right to be housed in Ireland. And then China influence on Africa. AI. CEOs see layoffs as triumph. Robot couriers and virtual lab of AI scientists. Good news caravan. Replenish old growth forecast. The doctor who faced...
It's not forecast.
Forest. Good. Now we were talking about my little dyslexia earlier. You see the first letter and you just go for it. So there we go. That's proof again. The doctors who faced 35 years in prison for giving saline instead of the COVID vaccine has now been fully acquitted. And in India's Jugaad culture. And just for those that are listening, we're on BitChute, YouTube, Rumble, and Spotify. So you'll see all the graphics as well, which kind of helps at times. Health, your life on the phone. Think you're drinking from a paper cup. You're actually sipping from a plastic-lined trap. And banana before bed. Inspiration, Wabi Sabi, and the New World Order. So, it's not Trump, make Europe great again. What's that about?
No, it's absolutely not Trump. but they use the same branding, I would say. There was this week a conference in Moldova. Moldova is a small country, actually, between Romania and Ukraine. People here in Romania tell me that it used to be part of Romania. So that's a bit sensitive topic. So it's a separate country, Moldova. And there was this meeting of, these guys call themselves patriots in the sense is that, Europe is basically being destroyed. I think we can agree on that. If you've been listening to our show for a long time, you know that we are discussing these things, and today we will share some stuff. So there was this meeting of international people in Moldova, how we can get Europe back in line, but it didn't went that easy. I got this news from the guy who you see with the microphone is Jim Ferguson. He's very active on X, and I think he's doing excellent work. But all these visitors to this conference, which were members of parliament, senators, European Parliament members, some of them were detained. They were denied entry or even deported, not for breaking the law, but for daring to speak the truth. Secret police was swarmed the hotel. Authorities tried to intimidate the folks, and they didn't want people to unite and speak up. So there were people from Poland, Italy, Romania, Moldova, the UK, and the US. There was a person, Brian Brown, he was detained for 52 hours without cause. So this was a well, for these people, it was a courageous act to be there and to talk about them. And basically what they say is that what you see is that the globalists, they will silence any dissent even before a word is spoken. And they don't want us to talk about these things. They just want their own agenda to be followed. So I think what these people were doing is very courageous and very necessary, because I think in every sense Europe is falling apart, and they are trying to counteract that. So that is this movement about.
Next one, UK. Kinda. As always, we kind of sometimes things kind of just fall into place, and what we're discussing, kind of censorship and things like that, and they attack those that are speaking out and trying to have a better world, so that they scare you. But this is another one, because the Online Safety Act and its impact on BitChute. I mean, I've mentioned about it before. We showed the BitChute, but it's kind of just gone into a bit more detail. Protection against illegal content. Platforms must take robust action against illegal content, including terrorism, which is good, child sexual exploitation, which is good, and hate offences. That's the one that catches people a lot. They are required to implement proactive measures to prevent and remove such content. BitChute, before the act, is a video sharing site known for its minimum content moderation and a focus of free speech. This approach attracted users banned from mainstream platforms, including myself, which led to criticism from hosting hate speech. And basically, I got kicked off of YouTube with the Awakening podcast, and I went to this one, and now I think I got something over 400,000, maybe 500,000 at this stage, views from my stuff on it. So BitChute has been very good for me. The penalties, right, from Ofsa. Ofcom is an independent regulator responsible for enforcing the act, issuing codes of practice, and investigating non-compliance. Ofcom can impose fines up to 18 million sterling, or 10% of a company's global revenue, whichever is greater, which is insane. In several cases, it can seek court orders to block non-compliant services in the UK. The Act was passed on the 26th of October 2023, with phased enforcement. Illegal content duties began on the 17th of March and child safety duties on the 25th of July 2025, hence why I'm talking about today. The background before the Act, BitChute was founded in 2019, and I saw during the last few years that you could see they were being regulated and that were coming up with different things, they're making changes. Other platforms, particularly encrypted messages service like Signal and WhatsApp, have also expressed strong opposition to the Online Safety Act, citing concerns about privacy and the potential weakening of encryption. While BitChute challenges are more focused on content moderation, the broader industry response highlights the tension between regulatory compliance and platform principles. It's talking about removing acts and everything, but basically in April 2014, BitChute announced it would restrict access to its platform for UK users. The company cited the Online Safety Act. It stated that the new law would require them to remove or restrict content in ways that conflict with their platform principles and technical capabilities. They argued that the Act demands were unclear, potentially too broad, and could force them to over-censor or incur major legal risks and costs. And I've even seen recently Trump coming out, and Starmer was over in the White House, and he kind of made claims about these things. The problem is, there's a lot of different companies that are video platforms, and with them type of fines, all they're doing is they're getting rid of the good boys that's allowing us to share our content, and lamestream media, no problem, or all these newspapers and things like that, no problem at all. They're allowed to put out their lies and everything. So this is dangerous.
Yeah, it's well, not only dangerous. I think it's a sign of what we mentioned last week. It's a sign of dictatorship if you don't allow dissenting opinions.
Farms closed in the UK.
Yeah, I saw a number which was published last week, and I'm gonna say it twice because it's such an incredible number. There were 6,365 agriculture, forestry, and fishing businesses closed in the past year. So that's 2024, only in the UK. And they say it's caused by the Labour government financial attack on farming. And it's got to do, well, with all kinds of things like taxes, but also like, for instance, a lot of farms are family businesses. So if the father wants to, well, he wants to retire and give the business to his son, then the taxes are so prohibitive that these children are not going to do that. But more than 6,000 companies are being closed. What does it mean? It's like these people feed us. Where does the food come from? I think this is part of the where Klaus Schwab or whatever says that you got to learn to eat insects because farms and fishery and everything are being closed. This is not only in the UK. This is happening in the Netherlands. This is happening in France. This is happening in Germany. It's happening everywhere. So why are they doing that? These farmers provide their livelihood. Well, that we can eat is livelihood for their families and they live from it, which is now no longer possible. But it's also your and my food. So I think it's totally incredible.
I was looking. I mean, if you watch Jeremy Clarkson's Farm, it'll show you all the kind of regulations and crap from the city. Just idiots kind of dictating what you must do. But even on the US, I saw something just during the week. It was I don't know, is it Tyson's? There's one of the bigger food producers, and what they did is they just dropped all the stuff. So they had all the pigs in the cages, and all the normal farmers just went out of business. They couldn't compete. So that's what they do. They drop the price, then they control everything, then they put them into all the supermarkets, and then it's all processed crap and jabbed and everything that is growing. Like, just all you have to do is look at a chicken in this 50s and look at a chicken now, what they look like, and it's like it's a Frankenstein. But we don't know that. We don't. And plus the fact is most of them don't even have a taste on it. And if you're making chicken broth soup, unless it's organic, without hormones and without antibiotics, you'll see all the gunk rising. Whereas when you get the natural one, you rarely see much of that. So most of the stuff, they're just pushing out the farmer. They're doing mass production. They have full control of everything, and it's internationalist from what I'm seeing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this is a Court of Appeal case. The case was brought by the Irish Human Rights and Equality Commission, HREC, against the state. The judge is delivered by a panel of 3 judges, with Justice Anthony M. Collins writing the court. This was dated on July the 30th, 2025. The Irish Court of Appeal recently overturned a High Court decision that has found the state breached the rights of asylum seekers by failing to provide them with accommodation. The appeal court ruled that although some asylum seekers experienced extreme material poverty, that was not enough evidence to prove that this amounted to a breach of fundamental rights or human dignity under Irish or EU law. The court specifically found that the Irish Human Rights and Equality Commission had not shown that the lack of accommodation put asylum seekers in a state of degradation incomparable with human rights. The impact. The ruling means that under current laws, asylum seekers in Ireland do not have an absolute right to be housed by the state. The decision is seen as a setback
for rights groups and has sparked renewed calls for reform of the asylum accommodation system. However, the government is not legally required to guarantee immediate shelter to all asylum seekers, even amid ongoing accommodation shortages. The case has intensified debate about Ireland's responsibility and the adequacy of its support for people seeking international protection. When the real estate crisis happened, 2008, and kind of took a bit longer going across, but they chucked their own people out. They threw them out of their houses and left them on the street. And that's now with asylum. I mean, they all have the same tents and then eventually put them into houses and hotels and everything. They weren't doing that to the Irish. The Irish, I remember seeing loads of sleeping bags, and it was a sad state of affairs. Of course, a lot of the government, they have accommodation. They're getting paid per bed. They're bringing all these different people. So it should nip it in the bud. There's a lot of protests happening now at the moment in Ireland and in the UK. They're sick of this because not only, I mean, if there's a war-torn area, I think we'd all put up our hands and say, hey, nobody should be like a woman and child coming in, that they don't want to be bombed and terrified. Everybody with that. And there's none of that happening. It's all men. And they're attacking. Even recently I saw one, the police, a guy just ran up with a knife and started stabbing the police officers. Like, this is just a common occurrence. And they're raping children, raping women. And this bill, I think, is kind of on our side. It's something that's good. They overturn something, the higher level, and there's a change happening. Otherwise, Europe is destroyed.
Well, actually, I saw this morning a video where the video was depicting a bus, and out of those bus came male migrants, all in their 20s and 30s. They were wearing more or less the same clothes, and they had in their hand a big envelope. And they went into the entrance of a very expensive hotel in Canary Wharf in London, which is a very wealthy, rich neighborhood in London. So they were transported there by bus, and then they boom, 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 boom. They all went in, and someone has shot a video of it. Why is that? Why are these people in the same clothes with an envelope going into one of the most expensive hotels in London, bringing together by bus, and no women, no children, only men of military age? That is sneaky. Huh? That is frightening, and that is what you kind of alluded to as well. So it's a good thing in Ireland, but in the UK, these things are happening. Again, I saw this video this morning. Yeah.
I've seen a load of videos. There's people now that are going into all these accommodations, and one of them, all brand new computers, the exact same. They all have the phones. They all have good clothes. And yet there's people, they can barely put food on the table because of the way the energy prices go through the roof. It's all orchestrated to destroy Europe.
Yeah, it's incredible. So that's why this Make Europe Great Again is, well, hopefully not a hollow phrase, because it's now the opposite. Yeah? China and Africa.
Or as Trump would say, China.
Well, I'm not Trump, so. Researchers say that Beijing is exporting its civilian state model to African countries and rapidly positioning itself to control the critical infrastructure, data, and energy that will power the continent, being Africa, AI system in the future. So the whole infrastructure on which the AI runs is becoming Chinese. And that could mean that China will have immense influence over politics and public life in Africa, potentially influencing election outcomes and swaying public opinion in favor of Beijing and its allies, according to the studies. So, and there's this I forget the name, but it's the modern version of the Silk Road. The Chinese are everywhere, all over the world. They're building railways, yeah, I mean, and also owning them, yeah, ports, transport, roads, infrastructure. So this is apparently why they're doing this. This is a small step towards that they, well, through the AI, and they already own the infrastructure. It's not a gift or development aid. It's no, they own it, and in that way they can control all these countries. And the reason why is because Africa is full of resources which we need for computers and everything else. So it's really incredible what's happening. Now you might say, that's Africa. Well, it's happening in South America. It's happening in Southeast Asia. And I know personally from the Netherlands that, because I sold my house to a Chinese couple and they got a kid, and the kid is every weekend supposed to, well, I don't know whether it's 1 or 2 days, go to a certain city where it's being, my words, being indoctrinated into Chinese culture. So that kid is born in the Netherlands. Everything's supposed to be in the Netherlands, but it's totally being manipulated, conditioned in the Chinese culture. This is happening in the Netherlands. I'm not making this up. This is what the man where I sold my house to. It's like, so this will happen in South America, in Africa, everywhere. It's like they are spreading their culture and their surveillance state everywhere, and this is happening all over the world as we speak.
I mean, Holland went into parts of Africa, pillaged it. Belgium the same. UK obviously, France, loads of them, Spain. So it's just being done in another way, but this time with a smile. They're taking all their assets. They're pretending they're looking after them. Nothing's for free. You don't build roads, take the ports. They're controlling it. They're going to be the ones holding the strings this time.
Absolutely. And this is not in the future. This is now. This podcast, which we share with you, and we put in a lot of work and a lot of love to keep you updated on stuff which the mass media won't tell you, cost us a lot of time and effort. And for both of us, it's we're talking about days and days of work, which we're not getting paid. We're not having any advertising, and well, sometimes even like Ronnie just said, we're being canceled. So we really would appreciate if you donate to us. Here on the slide, we have Patreon, we have PayPal, we have Buy Me a Coffee, we have Ko-fi. If you, with your phone, if you click on the picture on the QR code, you will get to our page and pay us each week a coffee or something else. We would be really grateful for you, and so that we can continue doing this work. Because again, unfortunately, most of us, we have to pay rent, we have to pay our food. For us, it's also getting more expensive. So it's for us also a matter of our livelihood, and we love doing it. But hey, unfortunately, we have to pay for that stuff, like you also have to. So please share and donate what you can spare, and we would be very grateful for that.
I'd just like to thank Barry Reynolds as well for making a nice contribution for both this. He's previously donated on the Learn Polish one, but a few times. So thank you very much, Barry. So AI.
COC Layoffs as Thrive. Oh, it's really, this looks like a nice guy. Actually, it's not. There is a cultural shift happening in transforming corporate America as CEOs are now openly celebrating workforce reductions as strategic achievement rather than signs of distress. Let me repeat that in other words. This guy, and I will share his name in a moment, he's proud that he's laying off people. And he thinks that, he deserves bonuses and everything because there's so many people he lays off. In the article, I can go, but this is a guy from Wells Fargo, one of the world's largest financial institutions. His name is Charlie Scharf. And he says in their bank's quarterly earning call, he proudly announces that the headcount has fallen for 20 consecutive quarters. That's 5 years. A 23 reduction in the workforce over 5 years, and he touted using attrition as our friend, while the bank implements AI solutions that significantly cut labor costs. Some time ago, I was a CEO myself, and from a PR point of view, if you would have to lay off people, it was the worst thing that could happen to your company, because that's bad news for the market. It shows that you're not doing fine. It's not good news for the people who get fired, their families, and everything else. So it's something which we try to prevent at all costs, because wow, it's really bad news. Now, with 20 years later, and apparently, look, this guy is smiling. He's like, "Hey, I'm a great guy. I reduced my workforce by 23%, and look how great a job I'm doing." This is what's happening. I've been sharing this all the time with you, that AI is replacing people, and instead that they are worried about this or helping the people, it's like, hey, look what a great job I am doing. So I think the world kind of changed 180 degrees to the worse, because if these guys think it's a sign of doing my good job, then where are we, the people? It's totally crazy.
Robot couriers. So, I mean, we kind of touched on that last week, but this is a bit more because I saw this during the week and I just thought so it kind of went to it a bit more. Robot couriers using GPS mapping software and sensors like cameras and LIDAR to navigate streets and sidewalks. They autonomously avoid obstacles, carry packages securely, and interact with customers through screens and apps. AI and machine learning help them adapt and optimize routes. They operate 24/7, returning to charging stations as needed, and can be monitored or controlled remotely if they arise. The advantages: robot couriers offer major cost savings as they don't require salaries or breaks and can work continuously. They provide faster, more reliable service, often with real-time tracking, and help businesses improve efficiency and customer satisfaction. Robots also reduce human contact, which is beneficial for health and safety, and can lower emissions by reducing the need for traditional devices. Just on that, a lot of old people, they're happy to say hello to a courier or have a little quick chit chat and everything. So that's not true. The reason that I touched on that is that's the kind of thing that was invented in Poland. If you look at the boxes, so sometimes instead of going to the post office where you can be queuing up for half an hour, I can get my parcels delivered to a place, a stationery, where there's all boxes. You just get your phone and you can open it. And so that's what it is. This comes along, people go, they just and it opens the box and your package is in there. Jobs lost. Robots do reduce jobs and wages, especially in sectors like delivery and automotive. However, the actual job rate loss is sometimes overstated. Only about 14% of workers report that their job replaced by a robot. Only 14%, Arnold. Sure, what's that between friends? Yes. Still, as adoption grows, more delivery jobs are at risk, particularly for lower wage workers. Robots can fall, glitch, or get stuck, require human intervention and maintenance. They may struggle in complex environments and raise privacy concerns due to their use of cameras, GDPR. It's one that's important, and sensors, regulatory challenges in public. So with a lot of the thing where they're tracking everything, if they're putting all these devices out with all cameras, we think it's just the courier to make sure it's navigating the same with all the cars. Can you trust the government? They're tracking everybody. Social security, social system where they're looking at everything. So that's another thing. And I mean, if you look at some countries where they wrap packages and everything, I mean, what's stopping a guy putting a mask over his head, just going over, just picking that up and destroying it and taking everything inside it, which will unfortunately happen in a few countries. But my main concern here is they're just saying it now as 14%. Eventually there'll be no jobs for the couriers. We said it before, and it's like, what are these guys going to do? And it's scary, the rate at the jobs that are being lost.
And to build upon what you said around the security/safety, there is this famous tool, I think it's called Ring. It's from Amazon, which is like you have a doorbell and you could see the people outside and whatever, but it could also see the other way. So it can see what's happening inside, but if this machine is at your front door, it can see everything inside of your house as well. These things are not safe. Yeah?
I've seen reports of that Amazon one tracking. So that has been caught for doing that.
Yeah. So, but these tools will even do it more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. A virtual lab of AI scientists. And you might say, why do you have a picture of a Asian-looking guy? Well, I would say that most of the top AI people, even in the US, and obviously in China, but even they're all from Chinese descent, I would say. Yeah, so that's why, and this guy is a guy from a hub, which is a combination between Stanford and the Trust Suckerburg Bio Hub. Chen is the wife of Zuckerberg. So Mrs. and Mr. Zuckerberg have a biohub, and they create a virtual lab of AI scientists that design, debate, and test biomedical discoveries. Well, you would say that's great. That's really help if it improves our health. But it's like there's an AI principal investigator that assembles specialized agents that conduct meetings lasting seconds instead of hours. And so there are all these AI agents who have different specialties, and then they meet and talk or whatever, and within a few seconds, apparently they can move ahead. They already produced 92 nanobody designs, with 2 successfully binding to the SARS-CoV-2 variant when tested, and it also released a full transcript of their reasoning and letting humans only interfere in just 1% of the time. So 1% of the time humans are involved in this process. Well, again, that would be great if you come up with discoveries to eradicate cancer or something like that. But I haven't seen that. But here in the article, it says the arrival of teams of AI research teams, again, no people, it's AI research teams, means science is no longer kept by human limits in time, energy, resources, and expertise. With agentic capabilities only continuing to scale, the pace of discovery is about to completely change along with the traditional notions of scientific research. That is great if this scientific research is to make you and I more healthy. But most likely those things will be captured by the big pharma and healthcare industry, or it will be limited only to very rich people. And scientists who are now in medical research, which are very smart people working day and night because they want to eradicate cancer, that they want to do eye disease, whatever topic they're doing. Now it's gone because we take a couple of AI agents. This is happening. This is being funded. There are millions and millions, well, not millions, hundreds of millions, maybe even thousands of millions involved in this money. But it's in this case, Stanford and the Zuckerberg guys there. It seems they got unlimited money, and that's what they're promoting.
Would not try Trust Suckerburg, as we call him, because during the pandemic, everything he was doing, he was putting people in Facebook jail. I got shadow banned. I had all hearts and thumbs up and stuff all removed and everything. Nobody was seeing my posts, and I saw other people, they get the Facebook jail as and they were getting striked, everything blocked. And I saw a video that was leaked of him for his internal organization telling him not to get the jab because it's dangerous. So can you trust this guy? Not in a million years. And that's why it's dangerous.
That's why it's absolutely dangerous. But this is, again, this is not science fiction. This is science fact.
Good news, Caravan.
Replenishing old growth forest. Old growth forest means that you get these trees which are hundreds, maybe thousands of years old. And especially the world's mightiest trees like the sequoia tree and the redwood tree. These are these trees there. If you park your car in front of the tree, you don't see the car from the other side. It's like, these are huge trees and they're growing over centuries and everything else. But because the forestry industry is cutting those trees down because there's a lot of wood in that forest, so they're disappearing. They're disappearing, those what they call old growth forest. And there's this man called David Millard, which you see here on the picture. He's a 75-year-old man. He's trying to save the world's lost old growth forest from extinction by using their DNA to help reverse climate change. He says that 98% of the old growth forest has been logged. Yeah, so that's the logging business. Hey, we need it for paper industry or for anything else. And we need to regrow that first. And that's what he is. He has created in a large warehouse, he grows these saplings of these, which will become huge trees, but it will take years. But he's growing these saplings to, well, bring those lovely, very impressive trees basically back to life. And this is what a 75-year-old man is doing. So I think it's really incredible and much needed.
Excellent. That's good. This one, doctor who faced 35 years of giving saline instead of COVID vaccine has now been fully acquitted. So I saw the video and you just see him breaking down crying. So Dr. Michael Kirk Moore Jr., a plastic surgeon in Utah, was accused of destroying $28,000 in COVID-19 vaccines, giving out nearly 2,000 fake vaccination cards and injecting children with saline instead of the vaccine. Criminal charges and penalties. He faced federal charges for healthcare fraud and conspiracy, including substituting saline for vaccines, issuing fake vaccine cards, and destroying vaccine doses. If convicted, he could have received up to 35 years in prison. He was fully acquitted. This means the jury found the prosecution did not prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt, possibly due to insufficient or unreliable evidence. And then the public reaction is the case drew significant attention, raising concerns about trust and ethics in healthcare. The acquittal led to mixed reactions, with some seeing it as due process and others worried about accountability. I remember there was people doing that here in Poland, that they were kind of you could go away and pay for the card. And I was like, don't do that, because that's a criminal case. When you're actually doing that, you're like faking evidence. I just don't do it. Don't get the jab and stuff like that. But, you know, the fact that he could have got 35 years trying to help people without getting the toxic poison, which we know is toxic, and we report on it a lot, the amount of injuries and everything. It's positive that at least he didn't get I mean, his life was over if he got 35 years. So thankfully, he's a free man.
In which country is it?
Utah, USA.
Oh, USA. Okay. Well, that's really. But these people are extremely brave. Eh? But people tend to forget it. Like, and if you say if you're 35, anyone 35 years in jail, your life is over. But he would lose his license. He would lose his business. He could no longer pay his mortgage, sustain his family, everything else. So what these guys doing are extremely, extremely brave. Jugaad. I don't know whether I pronounce it correctly, but it's a part of the Indian culture where it has become kind of a hidden world of repair and reinvention, where cobblers, tailors, mechanics, and everyday inventors are quietly powering a sustainable way of life. Yeah, to the left, you see on the pictures a guy repairing watches, and to the right, I've not seen it, but is a guy who's repairing an umbrella. You don't want, well, I'm from the Netherlands. Ronnie is from Ireland. We're used to a lot of rain. What happens to your umbrella? There's wind, and then it goes the other way. And what do people do? You throw it away. I've seen so many dustbins with somehow dysfunctional umbrellas in there. But this guy is repairing those umbrellas. So, and they're repairing basically everything from radios to shoes to whatever. And what we now see in our consumption culture is like everything, oh, it's broken, we throw it away. And the Jugaad culture, which is ready for ages and ages in India, I think is really, really good, because it's like, hey, can we still repair it? And in India, but now almost in every country, I would say a lot of people are poor in the sense that you cannot buy any new stuff. So, but where can you repair it? And in India, it's still part of the culture. And I hope that this Jugaad culture spreads across other countries, because it creates work and it creates something for which people now more and more can no longer afford. Yeah, so instead of buying something new, let's get something repaired. That is what the Jugaad culture is all about. So it's really, really good news.
You got that pronunciation correct anyway, Arnold, is from what I can see. When I was younger, I remember, like, you go to the cobbler, you get your shoes soled and healed. Done it loads of times. There was lots of electronic stores, so something with the TV, the radio, or anything like that. You went in and you got it fixed. And the thing is, now, not only is the prices drop, but they're crap. Like, you buy an iron, you buy a washing machine, it's like sometimes it might have a 5-year guarantee. Usually it breaks after 5 years. If it's got something that's a 1-year guarantee, they make it that it's going to break after that time, and it's just chucked into the bin, and that's the end of it. And it's like, so that's again all orchestrated. Even with cars, there's tracking on the cars that the door closes so many times and something breaks intentionally. That's sad. And that's the society we live in.
Yeah, that's what they call in business planned obsolescence. And I even had it with a washing machine from Miele. Miele is the top brand in Germany, top brand in the world. And I think my washing machine is, let's say, 8 years old. And there was a knob which they call the clock, which you have to turn which program you want. And apparently that clock was broken. So I called the guy and I said, hey, it's not working anymore. Yeah, it's the clock. So I said, well, replace it now. There are no clocks anymore. So it's a simple thing. It's not the engine or something really big. It just that well, literally they call it the clock. I didn't know that, but it's like you have to buy a new machine, man. Whereas previously, it's like they would have these parts, these spare parts. I worked in the service business. Yeah, it's like you need to have spare parts in order to repair stuff. And now even Miele, which is again, it used to be the top brand in the world. No, we don't have those clocks anymore. So that confirms what Ronnie just said. You're being screwed. It's like, But in India, obviously, with the Jugaad culture, they're still repairing stuff. And it's incredible what some of these, well, mostly guys are doing.
There's a guy I follow on TikTok, and he's a mechanic, and he goes through all the different cars and how he's fixing things and everything. And it was Audi was the car. There's a part, I'm not sure exactly. It's some part in the engine, and it's like a kind of axle kind of thing. It looks like, in all intents and purposes, like an Allen key straight. And it's made in such a way with crappy material that after 200,000 kilometers, it breaks, and that causes a fortune work. The engine just gets destroyed. And he just was recommending, hey, go away and replace this to a better quality one, and your engine will run away. So do you think they don't know that? 100% they do. Shame on them. And there's a lot of car companies do the exact same. So just be buyer beware. Your life on the phone with like 99% of the population, I suppose we're talking about there.
Yeah, this is a graph which was published, I think, last week, of a study of almost 3,000 students from 18 institutions. And yes, so these are people from, let's say, 18 to 25. They spent on average 5.5 hours per day on their phone. And the most striking thing is they said that equates to 25 years of non-stop scrolling over a lifetime. 25 years of your life of scrolling. That means, let's say, because the average age which people get is declining very rapidly. Let's say the maximum age is around 75. That means from 50 to 75, those lives are gone. Yeah, you're just scrolling. Yeah? But the good news, what I found is, well, that's horrible, yeah? But the good part is that 76% of them believe that their well-being suffers from excessive phone use, which I hadn't expected, because it's like, so these students are like, they know themselves, like, spending so much time on my phone is not good. And also 75% said their studies have suffered. Well, I can imagine if you're 5.5 hours per day on your phone, that's 5.5 hours which you cannot spend on studying. But if we have an 8-hour workday or a 9 or a 10-hour workday, and you're 5.5 hours on the phone, that's not gonna make it. And 68% actively want to spend less time on their phones. So, well, the guy who's doing this is called Jonathan Haidt. He's a very of John Haidt. He's doing this research. He's the leading guy in this area, and he says, how about delay giving smartphones and tablets till at least people are 14 years old? I think that's an excellent suggestion, but these were not 14-year-old people. These are students, so they're 18 years and older. It's like, I think this rapidly gotta change, because it's like, it's destroying people's life. It's like, a few days ago, I was sitting on the bench in a bus stop waiting for a bus, and I was just looking around, noticing people. And next to me was a woman who clearly got, it seemed that she was going home from her work, so she was dressed above average, let me put it like that. So she must have had a decent job with her. and maximum, like I say, 6 minutes waiting for a bus. She was playing a game on her phone, like adding squares up, all these squares, and put these squares in this, to me, opinion, a complete stupid game. It's like, why are you destroying your brain? Can you just not wait for 5-6 minutes and look around or think about more important things in life than where to put the square on your stupid screen? Yeah, that's why I wrote on my social media is like, if you constantly feed your brain with junk, your brain becomes junk. This is what I saw. Well, I was like, this is incredible. It's like, yeah, it's like, and this woman was in her 40s. It's like, you're destroying your brain. Can't you think about, well, what you're going to do the weekend, what you're going to eat tonight, what you could have done better with your work? No, you're looking at putting 4 squares in a line. It's like, so what I love these surveys because they show how crazy it is, how crazy life has become with these phones. But the more, well, positively minded I am is that so many of these students say, yes, this has become totally crazy. And I think that's an important start to get change, because most change start with dissatisfaction. And it's like, hey, I'm seeing things are dysfunctional, dissatisfaction, this is not working. We need to do things differently. And I think we need to do this rapidly, because you don't want to have on your gravestone is like, yeah, he was a good person, but he spent 25 years of his life on his phone.
You mentioned, 14, which, yeah, is a great age. The problem is I've seen people, they put the iPads in the phones when they're a baby in the pram, but even with my own child, because, I've equal custody, so we're not together from since he was 1. And the phone was bought for him when he was 6. And the reason was like, they all have the phones in the school, or 7, something like that. And I was so against it. But the problem is then they become isolated. So if every single person is just giving their phone, and your child becomes different, then what I did is I was like, let's just get a normal phone like we used to before, the Nokia, where you can only ring or send an SMS. That way they're not on their phone all the time, but they don't navigate towards that. So I got that phone, didn't use it, but that was my kind of purpose. But even if I look at the other day, because I was talking to prior to record, we went for a lovely 7-kilometer walk yesterday, just really enjoyable walk. And no phones, having a lovely conversation. We came back, then we done a nice grill, went shopping, done a grill, no phones. And even if I'm playing games, playing chess or whatever, no phones. It's when you kind of just, yeah, you do your thing, I'll do my thing. The phones are out and everything. So parents really have to take responsibility instead of just going, they're grand, they're calm. You mentioned it about the loneliness and isolation. It's a chain reaction. And I can even see it in my child when there's times that he's on it. I see his personality changes. I nip it in the bud fast. But most people aren't even conscious of that. They're deadly. They're deadly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so this is another one. I mean, I had heard of this, but I saw a video of a guy doing it. It's like paper cups and straws. Not as paper as you think. When you pick up a paper cup or a straw, it's easy to assume you're making an eco-friendly choice, but in reality, both are often lined and coated with plastic, turning them into plastic-lined traps rather than pure paper products. Paper cups are typically made from wood pulp, but to make them waterproof and be able to hold liquids, manufacturers coat the inside with a thin layer of plastic, usually polyethylene, PE, or sometimes acrylic resin. This plastic lining prevents leaks, but also means the cup isn't fully biodegradable and easily recyclable, which means another lie when you're segregating everything. Paper straws are made in a similar way. While the base is paper, they're often coated with the same types of plastics as cups to prevent them from getting soggy. The coating process is more challenging for straws because the liquid touches every surface, so the inside, outside, and even the seams need to be covered. the health risk plastics and hot drinks. When you pour a hot drink into a plastic-lined paper cup or sip through a coated straw, there's a risks of tiny amounts of plastic chemicals can leach into your beverage. Heat can accelerate this process, potentially releasing microplastics or chemical additives from the lining into your drink. Over time, ingesting these substances may pose health risk, as some plastic components have been linked to hormone disruption or other health concerns, like certain things like that. Another lie, and I've seen them in cans as well. I don't know if I mentioned that in the previous episode, but when you dissolve there's plastic inside the cans. You even mentioned it in the bottles, which I was shocked about. I didn't know about that. So there's plastic going into us the whole time. We're wondering why we're sick. We're not meant to have plastics in us. And, a lot of the time, hey, this is nature and everything. I remember even I had a food truck business at one stage. I got everything paper-wise because I was trying to do a good thing. I was fooled. And just be aware of it.
Question in the old days, we used to have only plastic cups, those white plastic cups. So is it mentioned that it seems that those white plastic might be even better than those ones?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It would be interesting to see.
But as I meant to mention, actually, an alternative is bring your own cup, because some places they'll put it into the thing, so you can bring your own metal cup. So if you're going to one of these coffee shops or something like that, bring your own cup and get them to pour it into it, and at least that way you're not getting the plastics into your body. So there's always ways of doing these things.
This is a shot I took from Dr. Mandel. He's a guy who's doing really, really natural stuff. And something which I didn't know, he says that you need to take a banana before going to bed because it helps you unwind. Well, who doesn't want to unwind? It helps you to relax. And a banana has magnesium and potassium. Well, I know for a fact that those minerals are very important to your health, but most people, if not all people, are lacking in magnesium and potassium. That is not good for your immune system, for everything else, but apparently it's in a banana. But you have to help you unwind is to eat it before going to bed. So I have to change some of my stuff because I eat a banana in my breakfast. So it's like even better if you do it if you go to bed, and instead of drinking another shot of alcohol or eating a sugary drink, eat a banana.
Maybe a banana flavored alcohol drink. And the thing is, I usually have a banana a day, and I never had one at night. I usually just have it during the day. And sometimes I won't eat breakfast till maybe 12, 1, 2. Maybe I'll have 1 or 2 bananas and it keeps me going. But what I had heard, and it's like fruit and everything, they said don't eat fruit after you have meals and stuff like that because it starts rotting on top of it. And that's probably another lie. And that's why I never kind of thought of having a banana at night. I must check that one out because I think that's probably another, everything is a lie. So but interesting one. Wabi Sabi. That's not wasabi, is it? Not on my sushi where I can actually burn. Is it because you get people online and they're
hot greens, clayish type of stuff. That is wasabi.
Yeah.
Is this Wabi Sabi?
It's his first cousin, isn't it?
No, it's got nothing to relate to each other. And it's I would say a philosophy. Here on the text, it says it's worldview. And what I like about it, and that's why I wanted to share it with you, is that it's a philosophy not about, because the most philosophies in and narratives, what we're told at school, in our upbringing, in our culture, is like, life can be fantastic. You will be happy, healthy, and wealthy if you just do what we tell you to do. That's basically everything we're being told all the time. That's what you see in commercials, in everything is like, yeah, you just got to do what we tell you to do and you will be happy, healthy, and wealthy. Wabi Sabi I think, is much more practical and much more honest because it says you can appreciate beauty and fine, but we have to understand that life is imperfect, it's impermanent, and it's incomplete. That's why I love it, because that is what life is. Yeah. And the reason why so many people feel lousy and not good enough and have a lack of self-confidence, that's because of that narrative is like, hey, if you do what we say, if you follow our prescription, if you follow our course, if you follow our step, you will be happy, healthy, and wealthy. No, Wabi Sabi says life is imperfect, impermanent, and incomplete. That's just the way life is. So it's a Japanese thing. I highly encourage you to study it and to view it and to apply it in your own life. And then you feel, I would say, much less lousy because everybody's trying to get happy, healthy, and wealthy, but nobody is. It's like that makes you feel frustrated. But this philosophy says, no, that's not how life is.
Yes. Yeah, so this is there's the book that I finished this weekend, because we've all heard of the New World the New World Order and stuff like that. So it's like I like to kind of find out where these things come from. So H.G. Wells was a complex and influential figure whose legacy is both celebrated and debated. He was widely regarded as a pioneering science fiction writer and a visionary social thinker. He was deeply committed to the idea that social progression and was an advocate for education, scientific advancement, and social reform. He was a lifelong socialist, a critic of capitalism, and a proponent of women's rights. Some of his views, particularly his support for eugenics and his sometimes utopian faith in a centralized authority, have been the subject of significant criticism. Wells's moral and ethical beliefs were shaped by his transition from Christianity to Darwinism, his advocacy for a scientifically managed society, and his belief in the potential for a world state to ensure peace and justice, while he contributed to the early development of human rights discourse and influential the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. His support for the UN is centralized. So there's a few things that, when I was reading it, that were good, but I kind of wanted to go, all right, who is this guy and who's he connected with? Fabian Society. He joined the influential socialist group in 1903, though he later criticized methods and had public disagreements with leaders like George Bernard Shaw. So secret societies, not good to be connected with that. Intellectuals and politicians, he interact with prominent figures such as Winston Churchill, another not good guy. I'll talk about him one day. I keep putting it off, but I have to bring him up and go through some of the information I have on Churchill. He studied under T.X. Huxley, a leading biologist and advocate of Darwinism, which profoundly influences his world view. When you're reading it, there's some things that you go, this is good. So I'm wondering, is this New World Order came from this? But at the same time, you can see some of the stuff that's the. He advocates for a world government based on rational scientific planning and socialist principles, arguing that only such a system can prevent future wars and defend human rights. Critique of nationalism. He sees nationalism as a sovereignty of individual states as the root cause of global conflict, calling for the replacement with a global authority. So the war thing, yeah, like if we're all kind of under one thing, why would one be attacking the other? That side of things are good. But the sovereignty, if you look at the EU, people's sovereignty is gone. And that's, so if you even look at the EU, that's where you don't actually have your own control. And then they dictate what they believe is right, which if you've got something like the Tartarian Emperor and something that's good and it's like a health system and everything, great. Everybody's working for the betterment of mankind. Everybody has water and everything, great. So you can look at this with two eyes. And yeah, it's universal human rights. He proposed a declaration of the rights of man, which includes rights to nourishment, education, legal protection, and freedom of movement, and argues these should become universal law. That's all good. That's okay. Distinction from Marx. He criticizes Marxism and Soviet communism for the focus on class conflict and lack of respect for individual freedom, advocating, it said, for a collectivism that is responsible for the whole community. Importance of free speech, which is one we talked about earlier today, Wells stresses that free speech and open debate are essential for building a peaceful world order and that war suppresses these vital processes. So I get a lot of books, like I've even read Mein Kampf. There's a load of different books I've read, Klaus Schwab's COVID book and everything. I like to kind of see where these guys are going, and that's why I actually bought that book. But you can look at it from two different goggles. The one that's betterment of mankind and the other is the control. And that's why did they come up with this new world order from this? Probably.
Well, I'm reading it that it originally was published in January 1940. I know that the word technocracy, which we are in at the moment, started at the end of the 1930s. So it's quite interesting that technocracy and this new world order, that it kind of emerged out of the same time frame, the 1930s and the 1940s, which we now see the evil side of things. That's with everything what we've been sharing is like, for most things, well, because we live in a duality, there's a good side and there's a bad side. But it seems now that the bad side is clearly winning. And like you just shared in this book, there were good ideas and there were bad ideas. But there are people who are taking all the bad ideas out of this book, out of technocracy and whatever. And that's what we see now.
And actually, you were on a podcast that I listened to just yesterday. And you mentioned about Gaddafi. And I wrote about that in the book that I did myself. How good he was, what he provided for society. If people got married, he put something like 50,000 towards their house. He was incredible. And how he was murdered. It's disgusting what was done to him. But the person didn't know. And I've come across so many people. They look at me with two heads when I say, this guy was a good guy. And he was portrayed as evil and everything. And they murdered him. But like for you, because you knew that as well. And it's like, this person was American. And I was like, what? That's not what I was told. And unfortunately, that's the society we live in.
Yeah, and the role that media plays, yeah, and the impact of that is that there are really, really, well, like you just shared with the guy who was acquitted with his the vaccine thing. They're very brave, good people doing good jobs, but that's not what the guys in power want. Then they're gonna destroy you, and that's happening all the time. Right?
So, as my co-host mentioned earlier, you can help the show. Like, just for those that don't know, like BitChute, I mentioned about them. I donate to them. I pay a little bit monthly for that because I appreciate the service that they've given me over the years, especially when I was stopped by YouTube. I've got another channel for YouTube and I have a Polish one. In 4 months, and I get a lot of views. At one stage, I had over 500,000 views on the Polish one, and less than $500. I average maybe $75 for 4 months, and that's putting up a load of content. Yet if I had to advertise on them, it would cost me thousands, if not hundreds of thousands. They pay out a fraction. So you might think, oh, you get creators content. Not the case. There's also Calendly. There's also Zoom I have to pay for. There's a load of costs associated with it. This also the time we're spending. We mention it a day each. It's like 8 hours. It's probably more because if we're getting sent a load of stuff, we both got our own little circles. People are sending us stuff. We're reviewing stuff. we're filtering through all the different things, and all you do is buy an orange juice, coffee, or a beer. You can do that. Scan the QR code, or go to awakeningpodcast.org support. All we're asking, $5 a month. That if you can do a monthly thing, that would be fantastic for us. We'd really appreciate it. Every penny helps, and thanks for those that are actually contributing already.
Yes, absolutely. And in essence, what we're trying to do with this Another Perspective podcast and all the other podcasts in our portfolio is to upgrade your brain. Because what we're seeing, and I shared it today, well, you shared it with a plastic cup where you think it's a paper cup, but it's a plastic cup. You get plastic in your body and in your brain, and that impacts your health. That has an impact on your brain. What I shared with the phone, it impacts your well-being. So what we're trying to do with this show is to help you upgrade your brain so you think more clearly and you can unlock your potential, and you can be more healthy in a world which is in a lot of ways trying to destroy you. So if you want to learn more about how you can upgrade your brain, and not with a chip, so I'm not like Elon Musk putting a chip in your brain. No, it's just me teaching you how you can upgrade your brain and totally unlock your potential. It's called braingym.fitness. The link is on the slide, where we have video masterclasses around specific topics like emotions, like relationships, like curiosity, habits. I got a 15-week training program which helps you to unlock your potential. And we have a new book coming out which helps you in your transformation process.
And what I'll do actually is, for those that are actually donating, if they're going into Patreon, I can set it up that the book will be there, so they'll be able to get the book when they make a donation.
Yeah, that will be super.
Once again, thank you very much. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And for those who find us on awakeningpodcast.org, be sure to give us a thumbs up, 5-star rating, share with your friends. It really helps. And if you're on a WhatsApp group, Telegram, Signal, blast it out to the different groups, because we put this out on a lot of places, and sometimes it can take off with it, and a lot of the times it doesn't show the views, but we know people are reading it. So thanks for your support. Until next week, take care.